one team who have been better this season, and I have to say of my predictions, this is the one I got most dramatically wrong. Brighton. Now, they were sort of one I thought I'll chuck them in there as a relegation option. No, they've actually been really good. And actually, They've only lost 4 games this season, which is less than every team bar the top 3. Winning games has been a bit more difficult. I think there was something like they hadn't won for 3 months until they beat, I want to say, Brentford on Boxing Day. But yeah, they've been really impressive. Like they were really good against Liverpool, really good against Chelsea. I thought they were really good against us. They could have won all those games and drew all 3.
It's what happens when you start finishing your chances. Last season, their big issue was finishing. This season, they're finishing. So they are actually where they're supposed to be, even on expected points. They're 1 point ahead of where they should be. And they are 9th in that metric. So, just
I feel like the difference is
matching their goal scoring at the moment.
The games where they were losing last year, they're now at least drawn, and then they have a couple wins in there as well. And the good recruitment as well, and a couple of the players like Trossard, I think is I think he's stepping up a bit more this season.
Yeah, he's good.
A couple of players like that, and then they've got some young Irish players coming through as well.
Where did Connolly go? Millwall.
Connolly's on at Borough, but I was actually referring to Evan Ferguson. Keep an eye out for him.
All right.
Yeah, more of the same from Brighton, I think. Sort of going forward, I mean, they could push for top half. I think. I don't think they're any worse than 3 or 4 of the teams around them. Wolves are a really interesting one this season because they've scored 14, conceded 14, 28 points, 8th in the table. I'll happily admit, I muted them as a potential team that could go down just because I thought it was so bad last season. And that's probably been reflected in Nuno's sacking from Spurs, that he's not a particularly great manager. They're quite solid, I think, Wolves. They're well coached. They don't score a lot of goals. They don't give a lot away. I think they could just hold their position, to be honest. I think they could just carry on as they are.
George currently had them spot on.
George got spot on. You were more optimistic, George. Me and Fergal 13th, Ali 14th.
I think they clearly got the right manager in, and I listened to a lot around him, and it seemed a lot more positive. And I actually felt like with Jimenez coming back, I thought they'd be scoring more now, more than they are. But I thought that was good, like a big miss for Nuno for quite a while. So that was big as well. So I thought that naturally they'd perform better than they had been. They've also got a lot of resources and a lot of good players. I would like to see them bring in a goal threat. I think everyone would. Not everyone, because I'm sure there's people that don't want them to succeed. All of the Wolverhampton fans, 14 goals is just terrible. That's relegation form. 14 goals.
It's the least in the division, bar Norwich.
It's incredible that they've done so well, and it is a credit to their defence. But they don't exactly play defensive football. They're not.
No, it is interesting as well. I saw earlier, sorry to cut you off, that their expected goals against is something like 6 worse than it actually is. So they should have conceded.
Understat has it 11. Jose Sa saved 6. So Jose Sa's expected goal differences. Yes, exactly. They are conceding a lot less than they should. I have them 7th because of that. Because I think Jose Sa is very capable of keeping up his form, and if he does,
he's a goalkeeper. He's been up there for signing of the season.
Comfortably one of the signings of the season, comfortably one of the best goalkeepers in the league, like second bar David De Gea, except more consistent.
Oh, XG, yeah, he's good, and he's a modern keeper. Plays out from the back. I think he's been a real plus for them. As George said, I think they need a forward in. I think that's what they're going to do. It sounds like they're going to cash in on Traore. He'll go to Spurs, and obviously they might.
That's a wise decision as well.
Yeah.
I think so. He doesn't add goals as much as he kind of, I think as an opposition manager, you can't ignore him. Like you have to prepare a game plan to, combat what he brings, but he doesn't bring a lot in terms of end product. Yeah, I think they'll carry on. Wolves somewhere between 7th and 8th, 9th, I think. Manchester United. This is a really, really interesting one. We all had them 4th at the start of the season. I think we all thought that the top 4 was kind of a bit set in stone. Hasn't proved to be the case. And I have to say, on current showing, they are winning 1-0 in the FA Cup at the moment. But from what I've seen under Rangnick so far, they're not improving. They're not improving structurally. They're not improving in terms of work ethic and off the ball. It's all disjointed and lethargic to me. And I could have egg on my face in a few months' time if they go on and make the top 4 and maybe win the FA Cup or do well in the Champions League. But based on what I'm seeing at the moment, there's no reason for me to think that they'll go any higher than where they are now. Might gain a place, but yeah. And I have to say, actually, I'm not that shocked.
I think they're going to come up short. I not get top 4. As things stands, I don't, as you said, I don't see enough of a change. I think I think the drastic change in tactics, it's a wee bit too much to ask for. And yeah, it just hasn't gone to plan. I thought it was a good appointment, and it might still be long term, but I don't know if it's worth it if you miss out in top 4 this year. I think you're going to end up having, as what was reported, a max exodus. I think that will happen if they get top 4, which mightn't be a bad thing again in the long term, but does set them back for a team that was expected to easily get top 4 and be challenging for silverware.
Yeah.
Either this year or next year.
Yeah. Oh, I think they were supposed to challenge. I think the signings would tell you Ronaldo, Varane, even Sancho to a certain degree for what they paid.
Yeah.
These are guys you bring in to, ice the cake and ultimately prepare you to try and win the title. And they're a million miles from that. I honestly think in terms of that, they need to blow it up and start again because they've basically assembled a squad which is completely unbalanced in terms of personnel and playing styles and qualities. They don't complement each other at all. I don't see Yeah, go on.
Sorry to cut you off. They've got a real They've got a real culture problem at Man United, with different factions and different personalities and clearly different ideas about the future. They need to bring together a common goal, and you've seen the most successful teams do that, where they all know the style of play, they all know the direction, and they're all committed to it. The likes of Tuchel, Klopp, obviously Pep as well. But then you even look at like Southampton and teams like that doing well. And it's because of the culture rather than anything else, I'd say. There's just a bit too much toxic positivity, I'd say, at Man United.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Go on.
I was just quick, I'm not convinced on their new CEO, Richard Arnold, as well. He looks like a real estate agent from Essex or something.
Ed Woodward, funny that.
They're so nicey, like soft, like I have them 10th.
10th?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, right now on expected points, they're 9th. They're below Brentford and 3 below Crystal Palace. So I'm not wrong. It's not an outrageous take. It's a very American take, but it's not an outrageous take. 10th. It'd just be very funny.
Are they more likely to finish 10th or 9th or whatever, or top 4?
Than top 4. They're obviously more likely to finish 10th than top 4 for me.
I don't know though. It's not. I think it's it's more of a.
It depends on the window. It depends on the window, but partly on the window.
Major business. I mean,
there you go. Remember when they were linked to Kieran Trippier, and then now Trippier's at Newcastle and lost to Cambridge United?
You say that, but he'd probably be better than any of their right backs they've got. Fairness.
That was my next point exactly.
Yeah. Let's move on. Tottenham, the next one.
Try not to say interesting this time.
I know. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm just gonna say the name and then I'm just gonna pass it over to you boys. I predicted them 7th. I think they'll finish higher than that. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I predicted them 12th.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 12th.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a disaster. In fairness, I think that's a really good prediction because they were doing bad. They were doing bad, and then I never thought that in my wildest dreams that they'd be able to get Conte.
I honestly think that under Nuno they were primed for a bottom half finish. I don't think it would be an exaggeration. Like we just slandered Man United. Man United beat them 3-0, like easily.
Yeah.
Like the
early Conte days though.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pre-Ranić, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think with Spurs.
And Solskjaer was so much better.
No, Carrick was.
In all seriousness, with Tottenham, what I would say is they're obviously better under Conte. Like, no surprise there. He's one of the best managers going at the moment. I do think they're untested though. If you look at their fixtures, I know they played Liverpool. They played a heavily depleted Liverpool, missing their entire midfield and Van Dijk. They've played all but 2 games at home, and they've only won 1 game away from home so far, which was in the 95th minute. And so I look at it and I think there's still work to be done there. I think they're going to push for top 4. I honestly think it'll come down to Arsenal and Tottenham. I'll get them to Arsenal in a minute, obviously. And I think it will come down to whoever does the better business in the window, in all honesty. Because even if you look at the FA Cup games this weekend, both teams fielded rotated squads. And okay, Tottenham got over the line against Morecambe, but they had to bring on Kane, Lucas and Skip to actually do it. And so I think they've both got similar problems in terms of the depth of the squad. It's not there. The replacement options are not up to scratch. But Conte's done a good job so far, obviously. Like nothing, different from probably what I expected.
I can imagine them spending massive in this transfer window though. Surely they promised Conte at least some money. No, but they had to have promised Conte money. Like they absolutely had to have, or at least promise to keep Kane, which
it could be in the January or it could be in the summer though. That money, like I always think.
But they brought in Conte for success now. Like that, Conte isn't someone to bring on a project.
He can wait 6 months though, can't he? Like, whenever if you can save 40 million in between transfer windows, I think that's worth doing. I think he would understand that. They will buy a player, but I'd be surprised if their big business is done in January. It's very rarely done in January. It's a hard window to do business in. Things have to be perfectly right for moves to go through. Like player has to be unhappy and has to want to go, and the club has to be willing to sell because otherwise it's very easy for either party to say no and wait until the summer. But I think it's I'm always skeptical about big moves in January. They probably will sign a player, and I saw reports that they're looking to get rid of Bergwijn, and potentially going to Ajax.
Dombele, they're looking to offload him as well.
I mean, Newcastle should just be in for the 2 of them straight away.
They are Newcastle.
That's a good point. I'm gonna say another weird sounding prediction here, but I predicted Tottenham in 4th just because.
That's not, I mean,
it's a little bit weird sounding.
God.
But they are 6th only because they have 2 games in hand. On West Ham and Arsenal, both on 20 games, and they're 1 point behind West Ham and 2 points behind Arsenal. One of the games is against Burnley. They win that, they're above those 2, and they still have a game in hand. And I only think it will improve for Conte from there. I think the only way is up for him. They are undefeated since that 3-0 against Man United.
Just since Conte came in. Although I would say the game against Chelsea in the EFL Cup the other night, or the Carabao Cup, I think it showed you where they're at. They're a million miles away from the top 3.
Yeah,
when they come up against decent opposition, particularly away from home, I still think the squad, there's only so much Conte can do with it.
Yeah.
they're definitely in the conversation for top four because none of the teams going for it are foolproof. There are flaws to each of them.
Yeah, and I think the highlight, and sorry, I think this is really important. Son's injured.
Yeah, of course.
And the other thing is that they don't have playmakers, so that's a massive issue if you're going to play against low block teams. The only source of creativity is Harry Kane, and then your primary finisher is out injured. So Lucas Moore is going to really have to step up here. And I imagine someone like Giovanni Lo Celso, which doesn't seem likely to happen. So that's the only concern. I do expect Conte to keep things at least solid enough at the bat that they don't turn draws into losses. And when that happens, you have a better chance than Arsenal and West Ham if you can capitalize on your games in hand, especially the Burnley game. The Burnley game is huge.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, before they play that Burnley game, the next game's against Arsenal, who we currently have a 2-point lead on them. If we win that game, it effectively wipes out the games in hand. Okay, it'll be 5 points. They win them both. They go 1 point above.
Yeah, but they have to win both.
Game. It's a huge game. Like, it sounds silly, this early into the season, halfway through, but it's a big point in the season because if Arsenal win that, or I'd say even avoid defeat, our fixtures are comparably easier than Spurs. We've already played Liverpool away. We've already played Man City twice. We'll already have played Spurs away. Spurs have still got to go to the Etihad, to Anfield, to Stamford Bridge, to Old Trafford. These are fixtures that I don't expect them to win any of those, if I'm honest. I mean, I stand to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
Huge game. But I don't think it's outrageous to predict them in the top four because they're one of 3 or 4 teams going for it, and they've probably got the best. Well, they definitely got the best coach out of all of them. So. It's kind of just really hinges on what he can squeeze out of them and what they do in the window. Let's move on. Another team going for it, West Ham. You've got them 5th, Ali.
Yes,
we
I
all
do.
predicted them kind of mid-table. Which I think is fair given the schedule. They have to play in Europe. They've got a fairly thin squad. Both their starting centre backs are now injured with long-term injuries, and you've kind of seen how that's affected them in recent weeks.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know why you think they'll pip Arsenal, Ali.
This wasn't done deliberately, to be honest. It just came to who do I think can stay more consistent and stay more composed going through the end of the season.
Yeah.
I believe that Arsenal will get to them in a little bit more detail in a second because they're obviously 4th.
Yeah.
West Ham United's experience, like their experienced players, are less than West Ham United's. West Ham United's have more experienced players than Arsenal do.
It's an interesting point.
Especially getting top 4.
Well.
Yeah. No, but he raises a good point with West Ham.
No,
if you actually go through their squad, the vast majority of them are in their prime. I think you've only got the likes of really like Declan Rice and the young right back Johnson, who is actually a backup in truth. They're the only guys that are lower age of the 20s. The rest of them are kind of all guys between 25 and 30. Some over the age of 30 that are in their prime age now, physically and kind of they've been around the block a bit. So it is a good point you make. I think the biggest concern you have if you're a West Ham fan is just the squad depth, and you're trying to compete on 2 fronts. And I think they got a good chance in the Europa League. So I don't think
I think their squad players are good enough. Like they brought in they brought in Kral and Vlasic, and they're both kind of like Europa League standard players that like they could probably fill in that competition. Obviously, Europa League gets a lot harder at the crunch time. All the Champions League dropout teams come in. Barcelona are in there now, so that obviously you have to take those games more seriously then. But I think they'll miss out on the top 4. I think they're going to drop down a little bit. Antonio's not been living up to. If they potentially got another striker that can supplement his goals when Antonio is not quite firing, I think that would be good. I rate Antonio, but he just seems to be he's not quite there. Yeah, I think they'll drop off come the end of the season. I think it's a lot to ask for. But yeah.
Yeah, similar. Very, very similar. But they're a good team. Like they've beaten Liverpool, they've beaten Chelsea, they gave Man City a competitive game, they beat Spurs. I think the other thing is it's worth saying again, they played a lot of those games at home. They've still got to play all these teams. They played us away. That's the only away game they've played so far. So the fixtures in that sense have been a bit kinder to them. They've played a lot of the difficult games at home where they are very good. But
here's the question: if you're West Ham, do you prioritise Europa League or the Premier League, top four, or and then the added question to that: at what point do you start prioritising the Europa League? What stage of the Europa League do you start going? Right, well, we're going to play our stronger players in the Europa League.
I honestly think that it depends on the draw, obviously. But what I would say is West Ham don't have the luxury that teams like Arsenal or Chelsea or Man United have had in previous years, where they've gone into the Europa League and kind of been able to get through it relatively easily until maybe like the quarterfinals, and then you start getting harder draws. I'm not quite sure West Ham have the depth of squad to do that. And so
they could rotate 2 or 3 players.
They could rotate a few players, but generally the core is going to be the same. And I have to say, like at the start of the season, when I said I think they'll struggle with the two, it wasn't with the groups. The groups you should get through, realistically. Like the teams you play in the groups, you're likely to be better than, unless you get a hard group, maybe like Leicester did. This is the stage now where it gets difficult. It's a fine juggling act. I think they'd prefer to win a trophy, of course, but it's knockout football at the end of the day. So how
I think they prefer Champions League, so
you get it either way.
Yeah, you get either way, but it's which one. That's the goal. So which path is easier for or is more reasonable for West Ham?
I don't think any professional organization would think. You can think that way with the Carabao Cup, for example. Like maybe just throw the Carabao Cup away, field a youth team, whatever, to focus your football on more important things like the league. But I don't think you choose, really. I don't think anybody does that between Europa League and Premier League. I think in that case, you just take each game as it comes and try to win every game, like just one game at a time. And I think West Ham will do exactly that.
Ollie, you're gonna have a difficult game in the Premier League, but a quarterfinal against maybe like a decent opposition, but not. Then
well, you just try to work around it. You just you field your.
You're gonna have to prioritize. So that's what I'm saying. Which one would you prioritize?
Which one would I prioritize?
You do, Ali. You see it all the time.
I think
with cups, yes. I don't think you see it with Champions League or Premier League, for example.
I think in all.
Well, that's Champions League.
I think he's right though. When you get to the later stages, if you're going for both, I remember Arsenal had this under Emery. We were still in the Europa League and we were still going for top 4, and in the end we got neither. But it's really difficult to manage both at the same time. And I think he's right in the sense that you just take each game as it goes, because I think when you start looking ahead and thinking, oh, we'll rotate here, we'll rotate there, and you get a few bad results, that's when you sort of you run into difficulty. So.
I think you're better off prioritize. I think you're more realistic to be able to prioritize one of them and focus on one of them than do the other, or try and do both. Especially with how the lack of depth in the West Ham squad. I think you have to choose one. I think it'd be the Premier. For me, I'd say choose the Premier League. It's difficult because a good European Cup run doesn't come along very often for West Ham, and they could be up against Barcelona. But I think they should try and prioritize the Premier League unless they got to the semi-final, and then that stage, I think you're 3 games away from winning it.
That's fair enough. Let's move on. We've talked about West Ham a bit there. Arsenal. I don't want to go too long on this because we've sort of covered a bit of it. I think key for Arsenal is going to be the transfer window. Because what you saw, it was a terrible performance yesterday at the time of recording. We played Nottingham Forest yesterday, lost 1-0 in the FA Cup. Yeah, don't try to laugh too loudly, guys.
Is it bad that I found it funny that the whole very credible and good promotion of no knife and knife crimes with the no more red, and they lost the game to a team that played in red. I think it was like it couldn't gone worse for that charity.
Someone put a tweet out earlier referring to the fact we had 0 shots on target and saying, yeah, we've taken it quite literally. We're not doing any attacking today. Yeah, it was dismal. I mean, look, great cause and, good will come from that, absolutely. But on the game itself, I want to forget it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It might do us a favour in terms of the schedule later in the season. I'd rather have gone through. I really like the FA Cup. I don't think it's that much to ask to, be able to beat Nottingham Forest with a second team and some, starters playing. But I think what it showed you is, with Arsenal, it's finally poised. If you remove a few key components of that team, the whole thing kind of falls flat. And so I think they're going to have to look at it. I mean, I'm amazed they let Maitland-Niles leave the club before getting a centre midfielder lined up, because now Xhaka has COVID and we've got one senior central midfielder. We had an 18-year-old
Party's away, is he?
yesterday.
Yep,
he's at
we've got him.
AFCON, and then he's at AFCON. So they're going to have to look at something there. And then the other thing, obviously, that's being reported at the moment is a striker. Whether it's Dusan Vlahovic, whether it's Isak, whether it's Calvert-Lewin, I'd take any of them during the season. And I think if we get a striker, it puts us in a much stronger position, because at the moment, as much as Lacazette's doing a good job and he's serviceable, he doesn't score many goals. And there's a huge drop-off from him to Eddie Nketiah, which is what you saw yesterday. And so as I said, it's delicately poised. A few key injuries and some bad transfers, and we could slip down the table. But I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say at the moment we're 4th and we're going to hold on to it. But it's close. Like, you could make a case for even Man United. You could make a case for all 4 of those teams that are going for it at the moment.
I think you'll hold on. I think they only having 1 game a week to focus on.
That's the other side of it, yeah.
I think that's what will help you through this. Because the League Cup will finish up soon, and you'll literally just have the Premier League to focus on.
Yeah, I think it gives us a better chance than we'd otherwise have. Let's move on. Let's do the last 3 quickly. Liverpool are 3rd at the moment.
They'll say 3rd.
But will we talk about these as a whole, these 3, and focus more on Man City? Because in fairness, we don't really talk too much about Man City.
Yeah, we can go through Chelsea and Liverpool pretty quickly. They've kind of done what I expected, right? They're both very good teams. They've both won a lot of games. And they've both drawn a few, and you look at the table and think it's cost them. Man City have drawn 2 games all season. Liverpool have drawn 6. Chelsea have drawn 7. And they suddenly find themselves 9 points and 11 points, albeit with a game in hand. 10 points, 11 points even, behind them.
We have dropped 10 points from winning positions, and that's why we will not win the league.
I have us 3rd. Didn't we? Yeah.
I have us 3rd. I think the current trajectory of the team, transfer rumors non-existent, tell me that
there's never any transfer rumors, in fairness to Ali.
No, never at all. Since
and then they end
up
signing someone.
Yeah, like Jota was from nowhere.
Jota and Fabinho were out of nowhere.
Do you honestly think we're going to sign someone in the winter? I don't think so.
I don't. All I would say is that the fact that there are no rumours doesn't really say anything to me, because I don't think there ever are with Liverpool.
I don't
think you will sign anyone. No.
I guess you're right. But if it happens and we don't sign anyone, we will continue to drop points from winning positions, because our midfield can't hold itself together, and it's as it's proved all season. And unfortunately, Thiago is injury prone. Our best midfield is Thiago, Fabinho, Naby Keita, in my opinion. Thiago's too injury prone. We've had our COVID issues with.
So's Keita, to be fair.
Keita's injury prone as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Henderson way off it. So our midfield has very much struggled. We started well with the Harvey Elliott interesting kind of right-hand side focus shape, that Trent Salah Harvey thing that was going on. Harvey isn't there anymore. So yeah, I just think we'll continue to drop points that we shouldn't drop and finish 3rd that way.
What about Chelsea, Fogel?
With Chelsea, it's interesting. There's a lot of there's constant sort of tweets about Marina Granovskaya and is she the best ever, or not best ever? Is she the best, sporting director going? And then there's a very split on this. People really rate Marina Granovskaya. People think she's terrible. I can imagine. I don't think she's not like someone that knows football inside out. I think she gets advised on who she should sign and who needs to go. by analysts and different people within the club, and then she'll just go and do the best deal she can. And I think that bit she's brilliant at. But if you look back at the summer, I think we should have gambled on Livramento. Um, we should have played Tammy Abraham more in the beforehand. He might have stayed, but then I think that transfer was always going to happen because we needed the funds to get Lukaku or a big striker that we wanted. But I think the lack of depth in very specific positions has now come up. And right back it has been an issue throughout. Trying to play Hudson-Odoi at right wing back hasn't worked. Now Pulisic is having a go. It's those positions that then make the team very unbalanced. And if we had gambled and kept Livramento and let him run down his contract, we only got 5 million for him. If we're gonna buy him back, it's gonna be 25. And I think he would have got enough game time. This is all in hindsight and after Reece James having injuries. But I think he having a proper right wing back would have actually solved a lot more, because it would have just mean that all the other players are playing in their own positions, and there's just been too much chopping and changing. There's a number of other factors, but just with Ali talking about transfers, we didn't quite get a perfect transfer window in terms of the players that we let go. Magnus Sarr has been very, very dodgy looking, and then you have Gurhi, who's as we've checked is like top in ground duels in top 5 leagues. So we could have kept a player like that. He could have been useful.
Yeah. You think
Yeah.
you'll see any transfers in January?
Yeah, I think we will. I think we'll get some sort of left wing back.
That's the position,
Whether
isn't it?
that be a loan coming back or a loan coming in. As far as I know, I think Tuchel wants a transfer, I read, but Granskov wants a loan. So we'll see what way that goes. And I don't think there's any other positions that we really, really need. And I think Kepa. I've said it already on the pod, but I think Kepa will do well while Mendy's away, so I'm not too worried about that either.
Yeah, I mean, having a 70 million backup goal is.
But that's one of the things that Grant Sky also gets labelled at her. But I can't imagine this is in her position. I think she just gets told he's the best on the market. Go do the best deal. And Atletico Bilbao are like they're always really strict on their release clauses. So that was always going to be the price. And if there's no other option that was provided to her, then then that's the best deal she could have done. Shocking deal, but
yeah, nothing new there. Quick word on Man City before we finish, guys. Look, they've wrapped it up already. I mean, we all predicted it, in fairness, apart from George, the delusional Chelsea fan. He did have to go, by the way, for anyone that's wondering why they haven't heard him in a while. He had to slip off. But yeah, they're very good. They're on one of those ominous winning runs at the moment where they can just reel off 15, 20 wins in a row like it's almost nothing. It's
they can also just let go one of the most exciting young forwards in world football. Starting for his national team.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to be here, grand. Yeah, 40 million or 50 odd.
No, they can also sit the £100 million man on the bench as a squad player. Seemingly, I mean,
yeah, it's annoying. I still have a scar from the 97-point season because they went on a 14-game winning run to win the league.
A line, yeah.
I don't know. They can win every single game for the rest of the league season, like it's nothing. When they play us, they'll win. I mean, I think that's one of.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That those next 2 games, I mean, they win them both, and that's it. I think they have to lose both to give either team a chance. And obviously both teams have to beat them.
Yeah.
But even then, you're relying on picking up 6 or 7 more points than Man City. You basically can't lose another game for the rest of the season because I can't see them losing 3 or 4 the way they're going.
They're also the least goals conceded.
It's going to have to be a big fall apart.
Least goals conceded, most goals scored. Yeah, it's
most points, worst expected points, best at every metric. Least draws bar Aston Villa and Watford
and Arsenal. Oh no, we got the same too.
Yep.
Yeah, they're very good. nothing new, and they don't really get much of a mention on this podcast because they just kind of stick to being quite good.
Is this one of the more impressive seasons from Guardiola?
I mean, so far, you could say
I
so.
think it's impressive just how I think it's impressive the fact they don't have a really good striker.
Yeah.
And they've just that.
They've
I
turned
think
it
that
into a strength. I think that is impressive. The fact that they've actually turned it into a tactical advantage in terms of how they use the false nine and get more men in midfield and kind of outnumber the opposition in sort of that sense. They've turned what should be a deficiency into a, the way they're fluid with it. Yeah. It actually benefits them playing without a striker in a lot of games. So I'd give them credit for that. I think their team that got 100 points was better than this one, to be honest. And I think the team that beat Liverpool to the title was better than this one. But not by a lot. I mean, there's 2 or 3 excellent teams in there. They're very good.
They've been winning for 2 months straight, more than 2 months straight, 6th of November onwards.
And that's the congested period of the season. You've got to give them credit for that. It's no coincidence that they have the biggest squad, so in these congested periods, they
can just chuck in a £100 million player.
They're able to come through it. £100 million.
Are we able to mention the Liverpool's dodgy coronavirus test?
We can. I've just seen that actually. Before we finish, I don't know if you've seen, Ali. The Athletic reporting Liverpool are going to be investigated for 10 positive cases, which were actually incorrect ahead of the EFL Cup tie with Arsenal. Now, I'm no expert in this. I can't tell you why this would have happened, but the chances of getting you can get incorrect negative tests and actually have the virus. That's more common. But false positives are like a 0.05 chance or 5% chance.
Yeah, I was quite worried about.
To get 10 of them at once suggests something. I'm not suggesting it's dodgy from Liverpool's part, but something dodgy's gone on there because that doesn't seem right to me. The probability is absurdly low.
I was weirded out by it too. Every time we get a positive test, and we've had a lot of them to the point of the Carabao Cup Semi-Final getting postponed. It's a suspected positive, and it's like it's either positive or negative. Just saying it's positive. I don't know what's happened there. I'm as weirded out as you, but we'll see. I mean,
we won't accuse anybody of anything.
We won't accuse anybody of anything. There must be something wrong.
Liverpool are cheating bastards. Thank you for sharing us.
Typical Arsenal always cheating.
As far as I know, they didn't. Was it the Premier League or whoever they had to report the tested? They didn't actually say how many positive tests they had. You just shut the training ground down, and then I think that
Public Health England shut it down. Though this is where the confusion sets in for
it?
me. Well, that's what I've seen on Twitter from well-respected journalists, that it wasn't Liverpool themselves that shut the training ground. They were advised to do it,
but it was as a result of the
test, obviously. Yeah. But who's administering those tests? Like who do they go to, and who ultimately takes the decision?
I suppose that law come out. What is it? A private company, or is it the in-house doctors and medical staff at Liverpool?
Yeah, or is it Public Health England? I don't know. I don't know.
It wouldn't be the NHS. I know that.
I thought. What I've read is they shut the ground down. So I just don't know the process they go through.
I advise on COVID stuff. That's my job at the moment. Yeah. And I know it'd be a private company that would provide the PCR test.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because they have to do it all quick, right?
Yeah.
More to come on that, I'm sure. For now, we'll leave it there, guys. Thanks as ever.
This coming Thursday is Just Another Football Podcast Derby, Liverpool Arsenal. May the best team win.
Yeah, that's if you don't get disqualified.
Yeah, that's
your cheating antics. So. It remains to be seen if that game goes ahead.
That'd be unbelievable for Arsenal if they fluked their way to a final.
We don't even have to play Liverpool, and we get nicely rested for the Tottenham game on Sunday. Just be
dream scenario.
Brilliant. Thank you as ever for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.